along the way, we've done a lot of work with museums and historical National Park Service, for example, Liberty Bell, other Mount Vernon down the street. And particularly one project which is dear to our hearts locally is the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Here's a case where the tomb is cracked, and years ago an effort was made to reproduce it. It has not been done, but we did scan it. So we completely captured it. We made a 3D model of not only the geometric figure, which you see here, which was to be reverse engineered to be perfect, but also these organic figures. And then once you have that data, here's a small scale version that was carved as a sample. And here you can see a larger scale version that was carved directly out of marble. And here you can see the polygonal data. Have I lost you yet, or is it going smooth? Because I'm trying to go fast. I want to get a lot. I wanted to bombard you with information. So, and here you can see, this is actually, that's a different project, but that's another object that's being carved out of marble. So now I want to get to one of our favorite customers over the years that we worked with, and Shelley's here, the National Gallery of Art. We've done two really interesting projects that I can talk about right now. One is this Leonardo's Horse project, which was an exhibit, was it last year? Yeah, it was recent. A recent exhibit where we pondered where this horse came from. It looks very much like a horse that was drawn by Leonardo da Vinci. It appears to match up with the time. So, and there's 3 of these horses. All of them were exhibited together. And what we did was we scanned all 3 of these horses to try and figure out how they were related and in scale and what that might tell us about their origin. So here you can see 3 of the horses scanned and aligned together in one common coordinate system. Now you see them laying over top of each other, not translucent. And here's this is a low resolution version of the 3D data, but you can see that the blue one is significantly smaller, and the red one and the yellow one are very close in size. So we did some additional analysis techniques. Here you can see some more layovers. And all these images were directly from the exhibit. So here you can see we took cross-sections of the data and made, that's what those circles are, is cross-sections of the point data. So we can look at them, and that, when we do that, tells us a lot about how they relate to each other. So you can see again how common and close that these yellow and red are, and that the blue seems to be inspired by, but not a direct copy of it. So what we determined, or what we helped Shelley and the conservation team at the National Gallery to determine, was that, yes, in fact, these are very close to one another in scale, but more importantly in their features, and that one could have been cast from the other. The blue one, however, was so much off in size that it was suggested that it was copied, not necessarily cast off, but inspired by, which helped them to say to them, to come to a conclusion that this particular horse that we were studying, not only does it look like the original drawings of Leonardo, but it was cared about enough to be copied. And by being cared about enough to be copied, perhaps it was made by Leonardo himself. But there was no conclusions that we could come to that were with certainty. We only were able to give tools to the museum to study and come to their, to glean information as they went. Another very interesting study that we conducted with them actually is in 2 books. One, Degas in the Norton Simon Museum, which was in a joint between conservators at the National Gallery and the Norton Simon Museum, and another is Edgar Degas' sculpture, the National Gallery of Art. And in this, we studied, well, first of all, there these pictures are all from the internet, but Degas he was a famous painter who painted his whole life and only showed one sculpture in his lifetime, and that was this wax over to the left. And when he died, there was lots of sculptures. And there was some lifetime plasters, some that were they were eventually chosen to be cast off. And what we did was we studied all of these different sculptures for, we scanned them all and then compared them. Oops, that's the wrong one. So we scanned different versions of different sculptures in different materials. And then we were able to take them into the virtual space and do very precise measurements by finding similar points on all the sculptures and taking measurements from one to the next. Also by doing this cross-section analysis where we lined the different sculptures up in common coordinate systems and then measured the difference in their sizes. And we helped to establish a basis by which these different sculptures related to one another in scale as they went through the process of being cast in different materials. And from that, we were able to get some data that helped to support theories that were already in place using traditional measurement, but we were able to support that with even more intense data, because when you scan something, you don't get a few measurements, you get millions and millions of points. So one of the key questions that they wanted to solve is, what is the relationship of these four little dancer sculptures? The one on the far, the red one is the original wax, the blue one is a plaster, the gray one was it was marked model, which means master, and then the yellow one is one of a series of, that were cast, called the serial bronzes. So in theory, this gray one should be bigger than the yellow one, because the gray one would be the master and the yellow one shrinks when it cools, so it would be smaller. But we were able to conclude that it was in fact smaller and help the conservators to be more certain that what they thought already was true, and that this was not the model. At this point in time, the data suggests that this one, which was marked model, is actually a second generation, and that there still is perhaps an unknown master that is out there that we don't know where it is, because the records say it was there, but we don't know where it is. So this was intended to be a fast display of how this 3D technology is working with the variety of art-centered projects. And in general, what I want to tell you is that 3D imaging can capture complex 3D forms and turn them into 3D point data. We can take those points and change them into models that provide functional data forms. We can help artists to document, scale, modify, and replicate their work. And that the 3D data can help conservators to document, preserve, and restore artifacts. And I tried to do this as fast as I could because I had a whole lot of information.
Thank you, Harry.
Did I stay on time?
Yeah, you're perfect. And
okay.
we'll take questions afterwards when we get into the group. So thank you, Harry.